Let me just confirm. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. For those who are joining for the first time today, I will brief that the Tech Emerge Resilience India Challenge was launched in June 2020 by the World Bank in partnership with the NDMA to help strengthen the resilience capacity of the states and communities in India. The idea is to identify the best and low cost, localized, and life saving technology solutions by leveraging the global technology partnerships. And in this challenge, we bring together the innovators from across the world to implement their solutions in the sphere of disaster risk reduction. And currently, we have 7 innovators who are successfully implementing their solutions in the 2 states of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. The kind of solutions they include AI, IoT, drones, digital platforms, low-tech, low-cost Wi-Fi connectivity, radio communications, etc., to ensure information access to remote communities. And it is being implemented under the guidance of ADPC in collaboration with World Bank and RICA and IIT Hyderabad being the monitoring partners. And now we are in the gearing up towards the final handover phase with the stakeholders. And this webinar therefore aims to solicit ideas and perspectives on building ownership of stakeholders and overcoming the techno-legal regime challenges. Now, if I may introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Harshit Sosan Lakra, who is an assistant professor in Department of Architecture and Planning. She is an associated faculty in Center for Excellence in Disaster Mitigation and Management, as well as in Center for Transportation Systems with Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, India. Dr. Harshit is trained as an architect and did her post-graduation from School of Planning, Center for Environmental Planning and Technology, Ahmedabad in 2001. She's also been recipient of Ford Foundation International Fellowship, under which she did her second master's in urban and regional planning from School of Architecture, Art and Planning, Cornell University, New York in 2009. She's also won Cornell Urban Scholarship Award and Graduate Research Scholarship Award in Cornell University. And Dr. Harshit finished her doctoral research in the year 2019 from Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. And with this, I invite Dr. Harshit for her session. Thank you, ma'am, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shukri, for this introduction, and thank you for this opportunity. So I'm very glad to be here, and may I start with the presentation then? And how much time do I have?
Ma'am, we can have around 35 to 40 minutes for presentation, and then we can save the last 10-15 minutes for question answers.
All right, fine. Thank you so much. So I'll just share my screen. Right, just a confirmation, is that visible to all of you?
Visible.
All right, thank you so much. So I'm really, I would repeat again that I'm really very glad to be part of this, and I think the concept note which I got really talked about innovation, which has been done for the first time in the area of disaster risk reduction. So and the kind of work which is happening and the kind of challenges they're facing and overcoming it. It's really encouraging to learn from that and to see the kind of partnership which has been done. So I think there's a lot of experience which already comes from ground. So today my job is to connect that and connect it with a bit of theory which is here, what we see here, and then through our experiences and the other experiences which had been around. So just for the, like Supreet has already briefed, but then it's really a unique example for us to see what Tech Emerge has been doing, that it is showing us integrated model where all the development resources, the human resources, the technical resources, different stakeholders, all are coming together to develop these technology in the risk-prone area. So just quickly telling about, since a lot of work is going in Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. So just introducing our institution, like I'm from Department of Architecture and Planning, and then we have been also doing certain work in this year here. And I think such kind of innovation which has been working on, it's very important in terms of linking with the education institutions. So here, like we are working in architecture and planning department in IIT Roorkee, which is also like the other aligned department, which is also resource for the state here. So we see that Center for Excellence in Disaster Mitigation Management, which also works in the wide range of, and I think a lot of collaboration is already there with many of the stakeholders here. And then also there is a C-Trans, which is like, again, working in all the transportation systems, which again become key elements here for the purpose here. We also see we have Department of Design, very newly started, initiated, and it's developing here. So which can be also a new resource information for all the aspirants. Then we also have here the Tinkering Lab, where the facilities are given for 3D printer, 3D scanners, and workstations and other things, where all the innovators can come and use these facilities. So such kind of things are here at IIT Roorkee. And then we also see this, I think Tech Emerge is very much familiar with such kind of incubation and entrepreneurship development. So in IIT Roorkee, we have TIDES, which is Incubation and Entrepreneurship Society. And it has been developed for promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. So there are a lot of profiles which are working with the institutions, and so far, I think what is being done through this project, we have also not really gone into that domain. Still, we have to get into the area of social entrepreneurship as well as in the technology for disaster risk resilience. So this is just one of the sample of how the e-charging is, fast speed e-charging has been developed in the institution through this incubation center here. So all these entities are here. So this was just to introduce IIT Roorkee here. So in today's talk, I'm going to cover majorly, I'm going to look into certain concepts which will be key here, so that all the participants here, all people here come on the same board to understand what do we really mean. While we are talking about when the projects are in the stage of handover, so what are we talking about, and then and what kind of challenges one might face, and what's where we are located at this moment, and what are the things which are not, as a country or as a context, we are not yet ready for this situation. So keeping all this in mind, it will prepare us for what to expect in future and how to navigate what is about to come. So we'll be looking at the concepts here, and as the idea shared with me, so we're going to look at what really we try to do through the pilot project, what's the social value we look at, and here we are really looking at building the stakeholder ownership, and what do we really understand by stakeholder ownership, and who are the beneficiaries, and how do we understand them, and how they play a key role here. So we're going to look at those concepts very quickly. And then we'll look at the case study where we'll look at the challenges and strategies like how all the entrepreneurs, startups, social entrepreneurs have dealt with it. So currently what is being done through TechEmerge has been not done before. So it's very difficult to bring in cases to really, learn from. The reference cases become very less. But I think the in-house learning and the collaborative learning from prior experience of different nature would be important for us here. So what I'm looking at while arranging this discussion is that we really understand the basic purpose of the interventions, what we are doing, and for other people who have been new in this domain, like what are the things which we really address at, what we look at, and how do we relate all of this? So relate with our own scenario or on context as a researcher, as an entrepreneur, wherever we are, how do we link with that? So that would be the learning objectives I would be looking at. So looking at the concept of pilot project, because we are doing a pilot project here. So what really is a pilot project? And certain aspects are very important for us to understand here. So it's said to be the initial small scale implementation. So where we do implementation at a small scale and to check the viability of a project idea. So there are a lot of ideas, like 7 ideas, what Supreet mentioned here, which have been worked upon. So here at the pilot stage, we look at the viability and these viabilities, these initiatives, what ideas which come can be completely new idea, or we can have certain process and approach which are new to the area. So a lot of things which have been taken in consideration here are very new to the region. Being in Uttarakhand, there are a lot of new things which are coming in through this technology intervention. So there's high degree of uncertainty which the researchers, entrepreneurs might have to deal with. So as different stakeholders also need to have that understanding about the uncertainty which is involved and be positive about that learning curve one looks at. So these things also become very important when we deal with the legal aspects, the policy domain, the element of uncertainty when we deal with a pilot project. And the key purpose when we deal with a pilot project is primarily to prove the viability and then not really to deliver an agreed outcome. So we just see that our things will work or not, is it viable or not viable? So those kind of discussions and deliberations come in at this point. And when you really come at the handover stage, then really one needs to look at its sustainability aspect and then look at how the community would be able to take it forward from there. And pilot, one thing important part of it is that it confirms the viability. Apart from that, it helps ones to look at its scalability, how the project can be scaled from here. And if we understand scalability, how do we really increase our outreach, reach out to larger people with the investment, with the human resource investment, technology investment we have done, not only matter of investment, but making technology reach to larger people. So one sees that here in the pilot project, and pilot project really helps you to look into the scalability of that aspect. And then this pilot project helps to test proposed process. So it's just not the technology, but how you're dealing with it. And in today's case study, we'll really see that, how that becomes very important, how we are dealing with how technology is one thing, but then handing over, letting the people use it, letting the stakeholders, the main beneficiary use it, process plays a very, very important role. So we also test the process here. So what's going to work and what's not going to work, or what needs certain fine tuning. And then what procedure we are following, are they appropriate, are they safe, and then what benefits we are expecting, are they being transferred or not. So all those aspects need to be seen here. And then this itself becomes the basis for the further investments, like whether more investment, whether we will be moving forward or not. So there's high degree of uncertainty also, what I mentioned. Then this is the flexible zone for learning, failing and succeeding. So I think it's equally important to document the success stories as well as the failure stories at this point, because all the cases teach you a lot in terms of how we can proceed forward for creating such environments for technological interventions. So just sharing, though I said that it was difficult to get a reference from the point of view of technology from the disaster concern, and something from the scalable level. So one initiative which we are doing, just to share, and the kind of problems we dealt with. So here we dealt with, this was Women of the World project, which we did with the international partnership with all higher institutions coming together to look at environment component, net zero component, as well as look at the local architecture, the vernacular architecture components, how we can reach to the larger mass, at the same time also address the disaster component, like how it would really address to that. So, and the most important thing, like, because it was talking about women of the world, it talked about engaging with women and taking women leadership and involving them at every stage of it, not only involving them, but led by women. So we have just completed like a demonstration project of it, where we, with the student partnership, we had horizontal and vertical partnership across departments with the community in the neighborhood as well as in the rural areas. So craftsperson coming in and helping us for adopting this or creating this demonstration project, where we got to learn, all of us got to learn a lot of things, like what are the real market challenges, what are the behavioral issues about this, what is also the psychological perspective towards any kind of new interventions or ideas which come, or the feasibility of it, the idea itself and the performance of that idea. So it's in a very initial stage where we have just developed the first demonstration project. Though it has led, by itself, it has led to integrate the local workmanship as well as address the climatic agenda, what we're talking about, bring women folks, and then also bring the buyers of these possible demonstration projects. So we have so far been successful in further replicating, and like other businessmen taking this project further and incorporating in the other areas as well. So this is just one of the demonstration projects where itself, like many of you would again relate with what experiences you had. Like it's how, when it comes to engaging with people and creating ownership, it seems to be the most difficult part. Doing something within the lab is much easier than really working on the field and working with so many stakeholders. And especially when you go to community and when you have to work with women, it becomes even more difficult because of the cultural context which is there. and expecting them to use it and expecting them to take it forward, it needs a lot of understanding about the cultural context and how you can tailor make your project there, how you can align your project to meet their requirement and not really, or maybe a way between the technical requirement as well as the cultural and the context requirement. So in this project, we got a lot of learning in terms of at what level women's participation was possible, where it was not possible, where we failed in achieving that, and where we could take it further. Still, we could address some of the disaster resilience aspects in terms of flood, but then there are still challenges about fire protection and all those aspects here. But then it definitely, we had the calculations related to net zero. So how the carbon emissions would be. So in that terms, we have been able to attain certain aspects here. So further, another what we have been doing is developing a traditional dwelling unit in Manipur with collaboration, community partnership. And there also key elements of like transferring it to people. Like we are at this stage of creating demonstration project, and then also with other friends and partners, we have been able to have takers, the buyers of this idea, and then they have been able to create those patterns there. So how one integrates this with the existing planning system, like what policies are already in place, what convergence policies are there, for instance, working through Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and then water supply and sanitation and Ministry of Culture, working through tourism. So how do you converge all those resources here, and how do you create interest of people to be willing to run it in a sustainable manner till the larger community is ready to accept those kind of changes. Further, there are certain more things which have been worked out, are like solar dryer, thresher, pigsty, and pig breeding farm. So this is again very contextual. It might be not acceptable in many parts of the country, but then since we were working in Manipur, this came from the community itself, that these are the things what they want to build, and the technology which they want to undertake here, and then how that is going to be transferred and what kind of support can be done there. So integrating it with the livelihood mission and then infrastructure development. So integrating with the existing system is helping us to take it forward. And then the need assessment, which came completely from the people, also made this thing to be very acceptable and aligned with the needs of the community. So understanding the, again, linking it with what the team here is working on, except these all become, if I understand it correctly with the interaction, that they all become the part of the pilot project, where you're looking at the understanding about all these things, about viability of the technology, the scalability of the technology, and then also how you are, what kind of learnings you're getting from here. Are you able to determine the process which is involved here? Are you able to determine the benefits which are there, though that might not be calculative, and this calculation would not be possible at this moment. But then does it shows that inclination? Does it builds that perception among the people about what the target of a pilot project is? That kind of learning, whether it's coming or not. So coming to another concept here, the social value which we're looking at. So here, just the concept of it means the quantification of the relative importance that people place on the changes they experience in their lives. So how much value? So you all have been working in the area with the community now, and people have seen that, they are seeing it, they're experiencing it. So now your assumption, your like measuring of those social values would really help you to translate it, like help you to build the ownership which is required. So once you understand from the perspective of the beneficiary what kind of social value they are placing on that technology or that complete idea, then the handing over of the project is much easier when you are somewhat it's visible, that social value, that understanding is visible to the beneficiary itself. Then it's easier for one to exit the or hand over the project. So so that's why it also becomes very important to measure these social values. There are certain framework, though there are opposition about how to measure it, not to measure it, or one should be descriptive, one should have the quantification. So this again becomes very important when handing over is done. So to understand what kind of social value is being placed. So, and it's important to understand this from the perspective of the people. So how we are recording people's perspective, how much value are we giving to all these interventions which are happening. And the main challenge with such kind of project, which right now one is dealing, is they do not get to see the benefit immediately unless something happens. So it will not happen. Sometimes certain innovations, like the innovation which I will be discussing today, those have day-to-day benefits, but for the team who is working here, they will have this problem of measuring the social value, because people will only perceive it in futuristic manner and not really be able to see it in their day-to-day life. They might see its building, but they would not see its impact or what kind of value it would really have to them. So that's a challenge your team would encounter while dealing with it. So having framework to measure, which will help in handing over the project here. So so when the social value from our example, while we were working on that, building that demonstration project, there were values of environments, like people understanding, the student group understanding, the local community understanding the value of environments which we are trying to protect. And not only just understanding in terms of agreeing to it, but then willing to take steps for it. So that understanding came to a certain extent. What we did here, how did we measure the social value, was like every participant in the project was asked to write daily reflection and daily journals, and or create audio journals here. Audio journals, they could just talk to themselves and leave a message for themselves, like what did they learn today, what were the challenges they came across, and what they think about the environment, what they think about women participation, what do they think about this technology. So that measuring all those values can continuously help us a lot. And how students or other people were participating, how they were engaging, that itself was a measurement of what kind of value they were placing on it. So documenting it, like for us, documenting it from the perspective of the students, perspective of the craftsmen who were coming to this, and all the other women who were associated with this was very important for us. And then that showed how they were thinking, how they were reflecting to the challenges. And it becomes very important here again to pay attention to the challenges and see when things go slow, how it affects the confidence of the people, confidence of the owners who might be owners in future, how it affects that. So it's important that you deal with it, you identify them, simplify them, and deal with them. So we also had like series of problems here with like even the sometimes with the participation, sometimes with the technology, sometimes with the availability of resource, sometimes with the availability of human skills which are required here. So you must have also experienced all those things. So how you're documenting it, and not only documenting it for your own purpose, but documenting it for the user, the beneficiary, because they should not just experience the problems in the process, but they should be able to also see how one overcomes those, because those become very important for them to take in future, because they would be handling it, and they need to have that impression that certain things might go wrong and how to deal with it, and their that positivity has to be maintained within the entire community, because that positivity and negativity and way to overcome really that also affects the scalability of the project and success of the project. So slightly coming to the stakeholders' ownership. So here, what we really mean by stakeholder ownership is the like what kind of priority we here we wanted to develop this project, and what kind of priority we wanted to give to this particular development agenda which we had. So how each one interacted, how the craftsmen interacted, how the mentors interacted, and how the community interacted, how the administration, which was funding, the logistic support, which was giving us space to work, electrical supply, water supply, and students who were supposed to work, and laborers who were supposed to work, the contractor who were supposed to work, and in general, how all the institutions were discussing and coming together. That really was helping us to know what kind of priority we are placing. So we call stakeholder ownership when there is a dialogue, there is an understanding which comes in, and then there is a willingness among the people to take up the issue. So when they think that, yes, this has to be done, this is needed, and this has to be done for our well-being, which we are not able to see today, but our future generation might see, or any unexpected time that might come. So that kind of ownership one needs to build. So that ownership is how each one of them would be able to speak up, would be able to value those aspects, will be able to see things through success and failure, will impact what kind of stakeholder ownership happens. So if we look through this particular project, a very simple demonstration project we did, but we had a very quick support from the administration to fund this. There was quick support from the department. It was a collaborative project, quick support from the department to give land. So we did this demonstration in a span of 2 months. So that only happened because there was stakeholders ownership. Administration was willing to take up, the funding was there. There were international partners who were willing to come up. The students who were there to execute it, because a major workforce and ideas and everything came from the student community. So that when the stakeholder ownership happened, then that's work moved forward. And then it will not only get erected here, but it would further go into operation in that manner. So you might also have noticed or experienced that you'll have different stakeholders, and different stakeholders will have very different interests and conflicting interests. So in that, how you're going to really make things work. So every in your, like you might be dealing with, I think, women entrepreneur, SHGs, where their priorities are different. And then how do you really make them agree and take ownership of such a project for which the returns would be visible very late. So very late, or you don't know when it would be really visible to them. So how do you create that environment? How do you create that space for those people to agree to certain elements here? And then not only agreeing to take those steps, but also taking the accountability that if this particular project doesn't complete on time, or if it doesn't works properly, then they take the ownership, and then they take the steps to make it happen, to make all those, to overcome all those failures or hindrances which come in the project. And because of the stakeholders ownership, we are mainly talking about the stakeholder ownership, beneficiary ownership today, because this space, this environment which you create, this is the one which creates the demand for the development. Whatever you are creating today, how much you prepare them to deal with them is going to create the demand. Their acceptance, their preparedness to handle the good and the bad of it, that is going to create the demand for the technology which you're dealing with. So mostly you will see that this is mediated through institutions, and it's mediated through both formal and informal. So what kind of rules they would follow, and each one of you can think and reflect about various at many times how you encounter a problem where certain group would not participate, or certain groups will not engage in certain things, or will have different agendas or priorities to deal with. So this would, even though it is important, they might not participate because there are other priorities which are there. So these institutions become important, and that helps you to take these things forward. So it becomes important that at this stage, or you must have already identified what institutions are there, which will help you to transfer, hand over those technology to the community. And we may remember that even though it's one program, one goal, it is going to be context specific, and it's not going to be same at that place. And this same stakeholders ownership also allows multi-stakeholder partnership, and it allows allows them to share benefits as well as the risks which are involved. And this also creates the positive ecosystem which is required. So anything preparing the community to learn and succeed or fail in certain things need very positive ecosystem to work on. So if you look at Indian context, and from the perspective of disaster risk reduction, we see that as a nation, we have at the central level, we have that positive accountability, where we have stated that we are going to spend in the 15th Finance Commission allocation of budget. You can see how the funds have been allocated for planning purpose, recovery purpose, that has been done. And then you also see that we are signatory to Sendai framework and Hydro framework. And then we also see the Prime Minister 10-point agenda on DRR is there, which also guides. So there is this all contributes to the ecosystem which we are talking about here. So these facilitates, however, these are at a different level. And when you deal with the projects, the innovation project which you're dealing with, then it needs a lot of translation of these policies and agendas at the local level, and probably local level, not even at the state level, but at the district level, even at the village level, Gram Sabha level, where they could facilitate, develop those kind of plans and translate them. Further, you would also see that was for the disaster context. I've just chosen few to help you understand what kind of things, policy understanding, environment one would need. So there's another which we see, the SSR, Scientific Social Responsibility Policy, which is really looking at the scientific community, all the researchers, academicians, most of them here present. So they are academicians, innovators, bureaucrats, administration people. So how the scientific community also, like in the same line of CSR, scientific community also has this scientific social responsibility. And the policy draft which is available, which creates a platform, and which has, you can see in the diagram here, you can see that how various activities provisions are made. So you can see how the ecosystem is improving, though we are not completely in a very favorable situation, but you can see how that openness and that leadership is there at this moment here. So you can see what kind of different, I hope that's visible. So you can see how college teachers, university teachers, doctors, students, they have access to science and technology infrastructure, how the demonstration projects are created, which is a very key element here, where you create, what you create, what kind of solutions you make, what kind of technology you come up with, and in which form you do it, where you locate it, where the outreach is more. And then how do you create awareness? How do you use different media? And then how do you prepare people? So all these all these provisions are already there now at the national level, and through the institutions which are like opening up and moving towards their local communities and engaging with the people, engaging with the community. So another important point here is that when we undertake this, when we create these platforms, we need to engage with the innovators. Most of the time we engage with the innovators, but it's equally important to engage with the potential buyers also. The users who will be there should also be there. So it should not be limited to the technical people, researchers and academicians, but also to the users of it, the buyers of any kind of technology. So now moving on to beneficiary. So I have taken this from SSR activity. So you can see that how it could be any community group. So it's not just we are looking at the people from the rural context or different contexts, but it could be a range of beneficiary which we are looking at. So the community group, students, college teacher, school and college teachers, it could be local bodies, communities, women groups, and through this project also we see that this very diverse beneficiary bucket has been created here. So just I picked up from the concept notes, you see that what has been done in this intervention, you see the 3DI model of water simulation for flood forecasting. It's their users have been institutions and community. So majorly institution using risk mapping, response management and so on, and then community response and recovery. So Coming on to the case study. So this is, most of you must be aware because this is very popular case study. So I took this case study because it addressed a lot of the aspects which we were looking forward to. So looking at the technological solution and the social value. So I'm talking about water ATM here. And now there's a lot of initiative you must have seen in the railway stations. There's water ATMs which have come up, and in Delhi area also a lot of urban areas also water initiatives have come up. But this case study I've taken from somewhere in 2008, where it was developed for the rural area and in a very initial phase. So what kind of challenges they encountered as a social entrepreneur? So this is about the water ATM, which is community filtration plant. And then that was done through local franchisee in mid-sized Indian villages. So how do you think about the business model, how those things are going to run? So how it's going to work in your case, what kind of models you're planning? So they worked through local franchisee, and they offered cost leadership, technological innovation, and incentives to create market-based solutions. So the similar line which you have been working on. And then their mission was to make pure drinking water accessible and affordable for all. So you think that this is something which is like people are going to have social value to this, because it's like daily consumption, but still purchasing of water was a challenge here. But still the social value relatively is higher here, perceived highly here because of its daily consumption, and no one can deny that use of it. So the beneficiary ownership challenge, what was there here in this particular case was cultural taboo, water sale, then also trust issue and ownership of the infrastructure. So how that infrastructure which has been developed, how that is going to be maintained and seen here. So they worked on the franchising mode. And then this was by Piramal Water. Then it's a for-profit social entrepreneurship. And then this particular case is Sarvajal, which means Water for All initiative. So just a quick thing that I have taken from their promotional case study materials. So there can be certain biases. So we see that here their beneficiaries were more than like 1 lakh persons, and then their business model was drinking water selling model through franchisee, and then they worked on 2 models, that is equipment rental or purchase. So there was a learning which was going on, so they tried different model how people are going to use it. So one was the rental model, and the other was where they would purchase the equipment. And they had certain technology types, so I'm not going to get into that. But looking at the source of revenue, so their revenue source was sales of water, how they were selling water, the product which they were selling, and the percentage of water sales revenue. So how for other franchisee, it was sales of water, and for Sarvajal, which is the brand, they took certain percentage of the water sales revenue. So that was the model. And then the targeted markets, what they were looking at was, they were looking at villages, rural context, where it was 1,000+ household where they would provide water. And then you can see the model, how it is working on. It's like you see here. So Preet, how much time I have more? Can you remind me? I think I'm out of time.
Okay, we generally have till 12, but If possible, we can extend it to 10-15 minutes. Miss Sharing, would that be okay?
Yes, yes, Sukrit, please. Dr. Harshit, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shukri. So here we look at the case study. So here we see that how technology, the people's need and technology has been merged here. So if you'll see what kind of understanding of what input the user or beneficiary needs to put here. So if you'll see in this case, they put water sourcing, they would have to arrange for water, and they would have to arrange for space and energy. So understanding while handing over what kind of input the people who are going to work with you are going to take those projects forward, what kind of input they would require here, and understanding of what the innovation is happening. So in this case, we see that the innovation was the water treatment plant, which was low cost, and then Suchak, which means the informant, the person who informs. So they had a patented two-way monitoring device for water system that would inform on what's happening on production, and helps to maintain the entire system. And they had the ERP system, where they could manage for each beneficiary. They had the ERP system where it would really track all the consumptions and what purchase is happening, and also track the water quality and maintenance aspect. And then provision, Suvidha, which means provision. It was a prepayment mechanism for franchisees, so they could pay in advance and then take the facility. And then they, while in during the pilot project, they also realized the how there's irregularity in electrical connections, other things, so how it can be powered through solar water. So solar water ATM, how they can deal with that. So you see that how the entire system works with the ATM, the plant which is there, the customer at the end, and how they are integrated here, and how that is being connected with the technology, the data cloud, which will maintain every information and also check the quality, and also maintain the sufficient water supply. And one can really understand how much water has been, the quality water as per WHO has been dispensed in this particular place. So I'm going to skip this production details, but how in the process, they were also like understanding the sales and distribution mechanism, how the sales and distribution would happen. So that's one needs to look at, and then the learning would continue on from here also. That in this case, they realized that how the last mile connectivity, that also needed some support, because the end user of this had to walk and come to the ATM center, which was not always possible. Sometimes the water was heavy, the container was heavy. So that was how they supported and created those ancillary facilities to deal with those requirements. So on process also, there'll be a lot of learning which will happen. And then here we see that the social value it was giving was safe and clean water, and then it also had health impact, water health disease reduction, and also environmental impact. So efficiency, how it was much more efficient. So this, I'm not getting into the details of it, but then also there was economical impact, how it, because of the low cost, how it was cutting down on the cost, and how much cost was coming to each franchisee who would be owning this business, and then how the cost would be to each user. And then there was human resource which was developed. So how much employment is generated, what kind of kiosk would be there, how many people would be employed there. So in this, what they did, as I've also learned from your case, that you also did a lot of on foot strategizing, like given on the context, how you really decided how to go forward with that. So here also on the operation and maintenance challenges, they had learning on the go. So as they were implementing, they were constantly learning. So that learning has to happen, and then the framework has to be designed at how we're going to go on learning in the process. So they modified business model. So earlier they had the rental, then they went to the equipment purchase. So there were benefits of rental as well, in which they went into the sequential stage. So rental was where they would put the complete infrastructure, capital cost, and then give it to the franchisee, the beneficiary, and then they would just maintain it and would give the cost. This had certain challenges for the entrepreneurs also, because it was huge investment which was coming, and the money was getting blocked, and there was no partnership or ownership among the beneficiaries. So it was also causing some kind of issues with the maintenance purpose. So but that rental model was also helpful for them in the beginning, because it allowed a lot of people to participate in. But eventually, when the people started accepting it, people started. Is the screen shared? Is it?
No, ma'am, it's not visible right now.
All right. I think something went wrong. I'll just check. I'm sorry. I should have.
Yes, now it's visible.
Yeah, sorry, I just pressed escape. Beneficiaries to purchase the equipment, so they could change their revenue model as well. So earlier they used to take 40% of the sales share, then later they could only they would also work with just 20% of the sale thing. That also allowed sustainability, and that also helped them to scale. So changing the model, moving from rental to equipment purchase, also helped them to scale the project, and they could cover larger house, and then they maintained the price and the quality transparency in this. And since it was cloud managed, and Suchak was there, Informant was there, so the water dispenser, all quality maintenance were maintained, was taken care of here. So earlier stage was for them the proof of concepts, and then they moved by the when they changed the model, they moved towards the sustainability, scalability, and to encounter all the technical problems, and then the business model problems which they were encountering. And with that, they could reduce the cost of collection, and also they had this prepayment mechanism, so that also helped them to further reduce their operational cost. So that learning we get from here, and then further they did awareness, advertisement, campaign, training, then value proposition, how to make people understand the value of what is being given to them, and having the feedback system from the clients, regular feedback system. So that also helped them to really improve this design, the innovation they were working on, and then ensuring the loyalty enforcement, that's how what is committed is being delivered to the beneficiary. So in order to build the ownership, participatory approach was taken, which I see that has happened in here also very intensively. So it's the important is looking at its importance very briefly, that it fosters community ownership, and it also ensures long-term sustainability of any project. And then also the involvement of the beneficiary plus the prospective buyers should all come in the beginning initial stage when you're even designing and planning and so that helps you to deal with a lot of decision making and acceptability in future. And then creation of demonstration projects. So they also did the demonstration project. They did it in Tamil Nadu with Farmer Village Water Committee. And this water committee was responsible for planning, implementation, operation, maintenance, and management, and conducting monthly meetings. So that kind of capacity building has to be taken care of. And this demonstration also created a positive perspective as well as the view for long-term sustainability. So all the activities which they did here was community involvement, electing the village water committee, appointing operators who would take care of it, and then empowering them, making them accountable, creating certain systems, decision-making systems, and then handing over to the community. So they could hand out of 16 villages, they prepared them for handling at the time the case study was undertaken. So they addressed to the behavioral change communication, and they developed a tool to manage that, document that, how it was there. And then also they had a community awareness and local marketing team which were working on it. And then they ensured equitable involvement. So how different domain, the beneficiary, the government entity, the NGOs, and all, even the research institutions, how do they come together? They all were equitable involvement was taken care of. And then creating partnership, having people in place was very important, and I think which is emphasized here also because it helps you to scale. So you see here they had partners like Nestle was here, which adopted school, then EHS for adaptation of a village, and then you have community empowerment, which is going on here. So a right partnership is very important. It's important for scaling purpose, how you're going to scale it, because you need these partners for the purpose of contextualizing, mobilizing resources, and also for creating partners and goodwill for creating the positivity, developing an ecosystem which is very open for ideas, innovation, success, and failures. And then the selection of these partners become very important given the kind of nature which one deals with, and especially in what you're dealing with, the disaster risk reduction in that domain, it becomes much more important that how you're selecting your partners here. So this was higher institution partnership within coming from your own project where the university support came, and even the government support came. And here we see that government has a very critical role. And I want to emphasize that it's the district level government which becomes very important when they make district level plans. So when they make a district development plan or regional development plan, that time, all these integrations are very important, which smoothens the entire process and makes provision for all the required infrastructure in place. So likewise, you see for the Pragati Foundation, where all the existing institutions were created here. So then further they worked on the operational and maintenance challenge. So how they took care of the information on how the water is coming and what kind of supply is happening, and then how the feedback loop is working, and then also sustainable financing, how this entire thing is financed, and how even the beneficiary, the buyers of this have the support of funding, how minimal loan could be given to them so that they can purchase and become owner and partners in the intervention. So the consumer financing part. They had certain technical glitches which they are still dealing with. So those, I'm going to skip that here. So we see legal and administrative issues, many of them I've already discussed. So in this water case, still we do not have many of the, for the drinking water, unpackaged drinking water, there's still a lack of regulation, so which creates a problem for the long run. But their main thing was the response system which they created, which helped them to deal with that, and all the partnership which they created to create a positive environment here. So there are other, you can see the positivity which comes here. So other leadership which is coming, Janajal, which you have already you have been seeing around. So how water is being promoted, this water ATMs have been promoted through the political leadership as well, technological, scientific leadership as well. So here we see that though what I am presenting here, water ATM, I'm not really presenting it as a success story, but a story from which we get to learn. So now there are issues where there are 50 to 60 of these installations are not functioning, and how they're going to leverage on that. So that part is there, and how they are collaborating with other initiatives and transferring their learnings to the government. So through Niti Aayog as well as Jal Shakti. So that transformation is happening. So here we see that how do we deal with it, and how the environment, the ecosystem helps us. It's a very legal aspect. The governance aspect is very important for us, because it can really block our innovation, or it can promote the innovation. And we also see that here in India, science, technology, innovation ecosystem is fairly, it's maturing, though there are certain more things which have to come up. But if you'll see that any innovation for implementation, it needs a good capacity of the local government. So one needs to also work on the local government side, and also ensure that if one is intending for a long-term engagement, then it should come in the mandate of the government. And if it is long-term, once it comes in the mandate of the government, it allows the larger long-term commitment from the government that will make things happen. So that's one important aspect which has to be taken care of, plus aligning it with the existing policy and programs and convergence which is possible. Innovation should take care of that. And I think a lot of awareness has also been initiated for this purpose now. So one knows about what resources to access to. But short-term targets and innovation can be achieved through local community. So local communities, NGOs and other things. So when they come into picture, that's good for short-term engagement and short-term returns. But for a long-term, it's important that the parameters, the provisions are included in the mandate of government. So that also needs the negotiators, people who, the researchers, to reach out to the government to make these provisions in the mandate of the government, so that the guidelines are created, the provisions are made in the master plan, development plan, district level plans, Gram Sabha level plans, so which creates those infrastructure and logistics which are required for all the innovations which can be done at this level. So there's another case study which I'm not going to cover, but one can see this shows, this is not from the entrepreneurship point of view, but it shows how the technology has been transferred, and it's been done at a very good pace as well as scale. So you see by Ministry of Panchayati Raj, that is Samitva scheme, which is like ownership scheme. So one can see this and how they have used the drone survey, how they have handed over the maps to the state, and they have digitized the parcels and created all the cards which is required for here, and then the course infrastructure. So here. So you can see the infrastructure, continuous operating reference system, which has been created in all the setup, which has been done, which had certain accuracy level and georeferencing, which it can provide, and how community and other people participate in ground truthing and maintaining all these aspects. So that's all from my side. So I would summarize that I dealt with the concept of what's really the intention of pilot project is, and how we understand social value, and how the pilot project helps us to understand building those social values, and also building the stakeholders' ownership and benefit, and also dealing with beneficiary, understanding our beneficiaries and preparing them for the situation. So, and I discussed the case study, giving the challenges and strategies. So thank you so much for your patience hearing, and thank you for accommodating the extended time. Thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And if there are any questions, maybe we can quickly take a few, and rest you can also email to us, and we'll be happy to answer. So if there are any questions, you can please ask.
Even clarification questions are fine. If I was not clear at some place, or I was very fast, then you can let me know. Or if you need more information, I'll be happy to share.
I think we have representations from Pragati Foundation, which you also mentioned here. So Vedanti ji, if you have any questions or any more clarifications, you can also ask.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon.
Hi,
I think,
good afternoon. Congratulations for doing wonderful work.
thank you so much. But the project you explained was about the water thing, right?
Yeah.
But Pragati Foundation did something else there. We worked on the community-driven radio.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I did briefly mention that. So
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was quite challenging for us. Good to understand all these things. It would have helped me. Suppose if this would have been taken before we start, also, like I would have gained some knowledge. Of course, all of your points have got a lot of values in it. We went through all certain challenges while deploying or while understanding with the community. That too, with the working with 100% women-driven radio has become it now. It was supposed to be a community-driven radio, but most of the participation was 99% women participation was more because of certain other reasons, like the migrating community.
Okay,
so
congratulations on achieving that. That's commendable.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there were a lot of challenges and understanding and adding all the things to them. We are almost in a wrapping up level. In this month end, we'll be handing over the entire thing to the community. And let's see how they take it ahead with the collaboration of local partners and the government stakeholders. We are looking about.
Okay. So I just wanted to know, like, have you been documenting your experiences? Like, what challenges did you face?
Yeah.
And how did they respond to that? Because that would be really important for us, like for us, people like us who are not really, and then people who are going to follow you eventually. So that would be really important, how you're documenting that.
Yeah, every day we used to do audio video recording. Since it was a radio, like the radio starts with the documentation process itself. Like, what do you want to talk about today? Along with the mandatory activities of COVID mandate information dissemination. Along with that, we wanted to share them. What did they learn today? What was the difficult for them? How it went well? Quite a few things we documented. The major challenge was about the uncertainty of the climate thing only, apart from the gender or the apart from the other this thing. The major thing was the climate uncertainty. Since we were working in no network areas, it was very difficult for us. People who live in the network area always get been connected, right? There it is not like that. 11 o'clock meeting, but it will not happen. By tomorrow, something will go to land. It will not happen. Even from our side also, when I promised somebody that I would call them by 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, that would have not happened. Suddenly बारिश आ जाता है, suddenly मौसम खराब हो जाता है, suddenly network गुल हो जाता है. So those things were a bigger challenge for us. So we were not able to, but still we could able to complete certain things in the bounded time. Those were like unexpected challenges. Yeah, climate issues were the major thing because we.
But they will continue to happen, no? So I think
Yeah,
teaching people how to deal with it would be much more important.
no, it was my learning. They were all adapted. They know very well. ये काम नहीं होगा तो नहीं होगा. They know very well, but it was new for me. It was learning for me because I drew from the other part of the country to the other part of right. So we were like being always in connected areas. So moving into the unconnected areas, they know. They need not like they know very well. Now, yeah, they are able to take it up, and it's very happy that community people are confident. Let's see how in the future they'll continue doing it. Yeah.
I hope our student community gets to learn from your experience here.
Hmm. Okay, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Yes.
Thank you so much, Vedanti ji. Ma'am, we have one more question from Muhammad. Muhammad, you want to ask?
Hello, ma'am. This is Mohammed from Rika. I have this question, like, mostly social innovation pilot projects, they require a lot of, large scale mobilization of stakeholders such as community, administration and all. So once it doesn't get scale, all the acquired skills become redundant because they don't have anywhere to apply these skills. So how to overcome this conundrum, wherever projects are involved with, large scale intergovernmental organizations and all, because the funding might stop at a point, and but the skills are still there. That's that point.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. And if I understood it properly, like I defined where I said no pilot project. So the purpose of the pilot project where I was defining. So it is a very learning phase and then the flexible phase. So one needs to be prepared also like that. So if it doesn't work, then it has to be remodeled. Then it has to be remodeled. So that acceptance has to be there for everyone. And how can you use that existing infrastructure in an innovative way in some other? That is one way of going about it. And then the other is to also at the same time preparing the stakeholders for there should be willingness to fail also. It's not just preparing them to succeed, but there should be willingness to fail also. Then only we get a real ecosystem, innovation ecosystem, when we are ready to invest in failing also, because there is something they're going to learn no matter in the process. And at least we'll know that there are certain things which work or there are certain ways which don't work. So once the infrastructure is created, that can always be remodeled, or there can be certain fine tuning which can be done. So once that understanding is there, then that withdrawing things doesn't happen. Like you said, no, the funding stops. So if that understanding comes from all the stakeholders, then that doesn't happen, because then everyone is positive about failure as well, and also about changing, what kind of changes are required. So I think it's more about being prepared for what to expect from all sides, even the innovator side, as well as even the funding side, and all stakeholders knowing what we are doing and how to open mind for the further intervention one is going to do. Do I answer the question? Probably it was that. Or...
Yes, thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you, Mohammed. If there are no further questions, then can we conclude, Miss Sharing?
Okay, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you so much. This
Sorry,
is
ma'am, I
really,
think there is one question from Miss Tanaya. Tanaya, you want to ask?
hello.
Hello? Tanaya, do you want to ask the question or should I just read it out?
I think you can read it out, Sukrit.
Okay, okay. So the question is that the traditional housing design in Manipur and the community and the gender specific. Okay, it's not a question. She's just giving a remark that it was very enriching.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Dr. Harshit. Thank you so much, Ms. Sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
If there are no more questions, I think we come to the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much, Dr. Harshit. I think, like Sukrit said, this is a very appropriate culmination of the Tech Emerge webinars because we are coming to a closing of most of the pilots that are being implemented in both Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. For me, today's webinar was very, it was a learning experience for me because as a grants manager, most of the issues and challenges that you have highlighted today are, we are experiencing it. And I think for that, I'm very grateful that you are here to highlight all of these. We went through building the case and a model for scalability. I'm sorry, let me open my video. So therefore, further investments of the pilot innovation concept is needed or not. Apart from the need for partnership and platform to promote innovation and entrepreneurship, I think we saw the key challenges faced by pilots, especially with the degrees of uncertainties that influence the viability, the adaptability, the scalability, and the sustainability of the technology or the process in building ownership of the pilot once the contract ends or once the pilot has delivered what it is supposed to deliver. What works, what does not work, especially in the context of piloting in a community as opposed to doing it in a laboratory like Dr. Harshit mentioned. Adoption of the pilot based on social values and impacts on a temporal dimension. Does seeing immediate results primarily lead to an adoption? That's what we saw in terms of asking that question. Building stakeholder ownership is a culmination of for me, this was especially valuable from the extent of priority attached to the development goals and policy accountability agenda to prioritizing the right stakeholder engagement, creating an enabling environment for policy direction, addressing conflict of interest, social contexts, the operation and manual maintenance issues, and the shared risk-benefit ecosystem. And the question that came up from RICA IIT, that whether or not these pilots can fail. Even our understanding from the Tech Emerge and the Climate Innovation Challenge pilots that are happening in the 7 South Asian countries, our understanding is that a pilot has to have the opportunity to succeed as well as fail, because this is where the innovation ecosystem is built upon. So Dr. Harshit has, I think, very meaningfully answered that question, that all funding organizations or the implementing organization, the end users, the communities, even the public sector, the governments will have to face the fact that a pilot may not be delivering the outputs that we expect out of it, and therefore, if it does not deliver, what is that next iteration? How do we build upon that to go to the next phase? And finally, I think we saw the crux of building ownership and scaling through partnerships, including garnering cooperation from legal and administrative entities, participatory approaches, awareness raising, demonstrating, and capacity building, very important, and empowering the communities to take ownership, which I believe Tech Emerge pilots are designed for and are implementing, despite the challenges, many challenges that we are facing. So I hope I have summed up what Dr. Hashid very succinctly presented in your presentation. Thank you very much again, all participants for your time, for your patience in attending this workshop. Thank you, Sukrit and Rika IIT, for attending as well.
Thank you so much, everyone. Before we leave, can everyone please turn on the camera for a group picture?
Camera turn on picture.
If possible, otherwise it's okay.
I'm not prepared.
Yes. So maybe on a count of 3.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Mr. Giri.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Okay. Thank you so much. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was wonderful interacting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you, Dr.
Bye-bye.